Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, my guest is Dominic Carubba, and let me tell you about Dominic. He is a speaker, trainer, entertainer, coach, and published author of the world's shortest book on success that has professional trainer, leader, and coaches been working with them for over 20 years, working to help all types of organizations, from Fortune 13 companies to one-on-one executive coaching. He started his work in organizational development when he joined the Marines and has never forgotten what it means to work on a team to serve a higher purpose. He knows what makes people tick and laugh to motivate and engage. He works with all leaders at all levels to create a culture of productivity in a world of distraction so that people move to the next level personally and professionally and turn their vision into results. He specializes in training managers to be more human because over 80% of the workers quit their boss, not their job. Bosses are not bad people, just poor communicators. So true. Dominic helps them to coach them and communicate more effectively so that they are less stressed and their team is more productive. We're going to talk today about productivity in a world of distraction. So please join me in welcoming my guest, Dominic Carubba.
Thank you, Vicki. That's a great way to say it.
I love it. So, Dominic, please share our first two easy questions before we get into our conversation about productivity in a world of distraction. Please tell everybody, where do you call home? Where do you currently live? And sometimes this is a tough question for people, but go ahead, take it.
Well, I'll tell you how, this is the perfect answer to make it a tough question answer, because I live in the city of Tucker. But my mailing address says Stone Mountain.
Okay.
But the community is called Smoke Rise. So I live in Smoke Rise, which is the subset of Tucker, which is called Stone Mountain to the post office. So 30087. Honestly, we don't even need cities. We just have zip codes, which give you the city. You don't need cities. But I'm 30087. People are attached to the name. That's where I'm at.
So funny. My dad was a postal worker for over 40 years. And at one point in his life, a second job working for Westinghouse was he had to sort these envelopes, and he probably not really politically correct in the or culturally, he brought work home to his 5 at that time kids to help him sort all things. And so at the age of like 9, I knew postal codes all over the world.
Sure. Because that's what kids were for. Kids were the first employees in the world. I mean, what are you thinking, everybody? You know,
we used to tease my dad that he just had 7 kids so that he had more helpers.
Exactly.
Or workers. Yeah. All
Absolutely.
right. So that's a great segue into talking about your story. So I gave some information about your beginnings, but really, I'd like for you to just talk about that backstory of what really informed, or what paths did you take, sometimes pivoted to become who you are today, doing what you do.
It's great. So I was having this conversation with somebody earlier yesterday, actually. I was having this conversation and I reflected on it. And so I have ADHD, but but nobody knew what it was when I had it, right? I
Yeah.
was just a kid who
You
got
were just
beaten.
a bad kid.
I was just beaten up as a child. So, that's why I joined the Marines, but I could take a hit. So, because I grew up very Catholic. We could start there. I mean, there's so many things I could start with, but I'm going to start here when as it relates to leadership. I started high school in eighth grade because the high school allowed eighth graders, and I was always trying. And part of my ADHD, one of the symptoms I had in my life is that I always try to do stuff ahead of time or faster. I want to get ahead, that kind of thing, right? So starting high school in eighth grade, because the option was available, I took it. Because of that, the school that I went to had an ROTC program, and I was friends with because I had older friends too who were at the high school. I wanted to follow them along, right? Anyway, the first class I took, because I wasn't eligible for ROTC, they had what's called Sword and Shield, which was a class taught by the ROTC guy. And here's what I remember about leadership. My first lesson that I remember is RHIP. Rank has its privilege.
Yeah.
And then Commander Kubicki said on the board, he wrote RHIR. But it comes with rank has its responsibilities.
Yeah.
And yesterday, for the first time after that many years, it's 45 years later, maybe 45, 46 years later, this came to me yesterday, which is privilege with responsibility is accountability.
Yeah.
Privilege without responsibility is entitlement. And that, there's all this talk about privilege, but privilege really comes from having the resources to get what you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
That's really what it is, right?
Mhm.
And as a leader, it's and by the way, I've studied leadership since then. I've been a fan of, the Marine Corps. One of the unique distinctions of the Marine Corps, why I'm proud of that, but beyond, I'm more proud of my 2.5 years in the Marine Corps than I am my 7 years in the Army National Guard. Even as an officer in the Army National Guard, I learned more about leadership as a private than I did
Okay.
as a lieutenant, because the
Mhm.
Marine Corps believes, the Army and those guys do too, but the Marine Corps really believes leadership happens at every level. And I used to teach that in organizational development, like the biggest mistake companies make is they wait till somebody gets promoted to a director before they teach them leadership. I'm like, well, they're already ruined by then.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
learning leadership, there's so many definitions. There's over 25,000 definitions of leadership. And what constitutes good leadership versus bad leadership really has to do with how you judge the results. Because I've seen a lot of great leaders fail in terms of
Yeah.
producing results, but they were better people than these
Mhm.
a-holes who produce great
Mhm.
results. And Stephen
Yeah.
Covey talks about that, right? The guy that runs the machine hard, makes profits, get promoted, and then the next guy looks like an a-hole because he's got to do all the repair maintenance because
Yeah.
production capability got overworked and under-maintained, and
And
it
leaves.
flip-flops, right?
And
Yeah.
leaves.
And that happens in government right now. I don't want to get political, but there's a presidential election this year. And the conversation about presidential election is who's going to be the right person. It doesn't matter. As a citizen, your job is to deal with whatever changes come down the road. As a
Mhm.
leader, your job is to look at the environment and adapt, improvise, and overcome, which is, you hear that in a lot of movies about Marines. And recessions occur because you're not paying attention,
Yeah. So what's happening?
right? There's a lot of
Mm.
people who make money in recessions because they paid attention and they capitalized
Mhm.
on the mortgage crisis versus other people who didn't pay attention and lost money.
Yeah.
What's and there's a lack of ADHD is used to be called attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It's not, but that's what it was called. Well, recessions and leaders suffer from paying attention to what matters most.
Yeah.
And that's my leadership journey has been about. So again, I started early and everything, right? So I left home at 15 because I'm an idiot. My dad said, "This is my house, my rules," one too many times. And I said, "Sure, I got you. Bye." He said, "What? You're going to have a job this summer." I'm like, "I'm leaving." He goes, "You can't do that." I'm like, "You've been telling me your house, your rules. I don't like your rules. I'm leaving your house." That's workable, right? I led myself out. I was emancipated at 16. I started my first business that time. I went off. So I signed my own paperwork to join the Marines and went off right after high school. Like I started a business the summer before I left for the Marine Corps. Like I've always been assertive in what I want to achieve in order to take that action to produce the results, right? It didn't always turn out the way I envisioned it. That's just the facts. But in my story of entrepreneurship, I started my career after I went to college. I was in college and I bartended because that was awesome in New Orleans. I grew up in well, nobody really grows up in New Orleans. Let me just say
No.
they get older. They get older and slow down, so it looks like they grow up, but nobody really grows up. And I have yet to meet a man who's older than 16 internally. Anyway, um, so I started bartending at 18. I was making more money at 18 than my dad, who had a PhD and had
Wow.
taught music for 40 years, was making, because I worked in the best bar in New Orleans. I gave
Mm.
all that up at 21 to start a career selling financial planning to people twice my age.
Wow.
Now, let me tell you what that looks like. It looks like a lot of appointments, no sales. Because
Mm.
who are you gonna? Are you look at my age? I look at a 21-year-old now and I go, I'm not taking financial planning advice from you. But at by 23, I was a vice president in that company. And the company is now called Primerica. It was a multi-level marketing. I didn't care. I just wanted to get it. My brothers got me into business. They quit. I got promoted.
Wow.
Right? That's how life worked out. And then I've been an entrepreneur ever since. I started a telephone marketing company. So I was actually in the Army when Desert Shield started.
Yeah.
I came home and I had a little disruption in my life. I didn't know if I was going to go to war or not. So
Mm-hmm.
and I've been away from my business for 6 months. And the way that business worked was you give up your team to get promoted so you can start a new team. And I gave up my team and then I left for 6 months and then I came back to no team and no sense of the future. And I moved to the telephone business and created a very successful marketing company with a local bell company. Remember we had local phone companies
Oh
way
yeah.
back in the
Oh
early
yeah.
90s?
Oh yeah.
So in 91, I met my partner. We created a very successful company. And at 24 years old, I was making 20 grand a month back in 1980, 1991. I built a team of 500 full-time salespeople and 1,500 people across 5 states in a year and a half.
Wow.
And I did all the field work. I did all the recruiting and the training. My partner did all the make sure we get paid work, which was awesome. Because that would have,
I need one of those partners.
I that and then when we split up, I had a phone company, he had a payphone company. He went on to become a multimillionaire. I went on to lose $1 million twice. On my own, I did really good because I did that within 5 years. I lost $1 million and then bounced back and lost $1 million again, really within three, but we like to call it five because it
Yeah.
took five to get all the paperwork done. But what I learned from that was leaders lead regardless of the results.
Yeah, for sure.
Leaders produce in the environment to to here's my definition of leadership, and it's a combination of a few things, but it's leaders provide purpose, motivation, and direction to have people do what they wouldn't normally do to produce a result.
Yeah. Mhm. Right.
And
Right.
so it's the job of a leader to respond. And I always talk about leaders only have three problems: people, people,
Mm-hmm.
and people.
Yeah.
The people they lead, the people they work with, and the people they follow.
Mm.
It's all the people.
Yeah.
And so there's and that's where when I taught my leadership class, which was a communication and coaching course in corporate, a big company,
Mm-hmm.
that I got to teach 1,000 of they liked my little uh, program that I developed. The story is kind of interesting. I got called in to participate as an observer for a leadership program that was going to happen in 6 months. 3 weeks before the launch of the program, my boss calls me up and says, "Hey, do you think you could actually just lead the program?" I'm like, what happened? The guy that they've been paying for 6 months to do all the research and study and develop the course materials for this project to train entry-level managers for this big corporation disappeared. I said, sure, give me all the materials and I'll just put it together because I'm a professional trainer. I could do that. And she said, well, here's the thing. We don't have any of his material.
Oh.
So I had 3 weeks before day one of the class.
Mm-hmm.
I had to design,
Research.
develop, and deliver a 5-day workshop.
And you had no chat GPT.
No chat GPT. A 5-day workshop to train these entry-level managers. And it was going to be 3 classes. And the first class was nerve-wracking because I was actually
Yeah.
still developing the class. Like 3 weeks,
Yeah.
I had Monday and Tuesday done
Been there.
in the can. But Monday night and Tuesday night, I was working on Wednesday and Thursday, and then Friday worked out.
Yeah.
Friday afternoon, when the class was over, and the way that I designed the class, the VP of sales, the senior vice president of sales said, "Hey, this was really good. Uh, make sure everybody does it." And I spent the next 5 years training everybody. After
Oh, wow.
that was a big accomplishment,
Yeah,
but
that's awesome.
it never repeated. So I haven't done a good job marketing again. But what again, leaders have to look at a situation, make a decision, and deal with the results.
Yeah.
That's it. And then you look at
Yeah.
you look at the environment. You either got what you wanted or you didn't. You're either going to continue on the mission or you're quit.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what you learned in the Marine Corps.
Mm.
Find a way to win
Right.
or
Right.
die. That's it.
Right.
So I don't know what the mystery is in leadership, but people do add a lot to it that may not necessarily serve them.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's my story. That's why I'm here today because I was telling you about ADHD. I got diagnosed with ADHD in 1994, 95, which I found out just this week. That was the first year it was in the DSM
Mm-hmm.
where it was officially a thing.
Yeah.
But as of today, there still is no official diagnosis of ADHD for adults.
I know.
So we had to
Same
grow
as
up with all of the things that people now know about too many different things, right? And there's
mm-hmm.
too many ways that we have to deal with people and all these other different, all these differences that people, the spectrums that people have and all that. And I'm like, well, 3 problems: people, people, and people.
Yeah.
You're going to have
Yeah.
to learn to
Well,
identify the people.
as a good leader too, it can't be one size fits all. I'm 66, so when I started, it was you have to, we're going to do this for everybody. It's not, there's no exceptions. We
Sure.
can't do that. And so, but it can't be that way. As I got into really being an effective leader, it was like, I know that these 9 people that work for me all are individual, all different ages. And now there's 5 generations out there, and different things motivate them, different life
Sure.
circumstances. And I had to get to know all of them. And the more that I shared my life and they felt careful or comfortable sharing theirs, I was better. It was not just a butt in a seat. It was a person who had their own purpose in life, and how can I help them understand what they do is important to the overall goals of our world, but also be understanding that I cared about them as a person.
We-
You know, I don't know that people still, you know, I guess that's why you and I do what we do, because I still think people don't get that sometimes.
They don't. And you said it, you said the word, Vicky, which is you have to care.
Yeah, you have to.
And at 21, Art Williams was the leader of the company that I worked for when it was called A.L. Williams. And, that's where I learned the phrase, people do not care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Hmm.
And, you know, corporate leadership is tough because you're accountable to an entity with no soul.
Yeah.
And the government has said that their corporations are entities now. Corporations are like, we treat them like people. Um, they ought to overturn Roe v. Wade. I mean, they ought to pass Roe v. Wade for corporations, in my opinion. It'd be legal to kill them at a certain point. Um, Sorry, I like to be a little controversial. That might tick some people off. Apologize if I'm triggering you, but grow up a little and deal with facts and deal with reality. Like, look, we're so, here's the thing. The world we live in today, I went, if you, there's this channel called Buzzer that is, when I
Yes.
turn my TV on at night, watch a little TV to go to sleep, before the smart TV loads up, the dumb TV's there, right? And the dumb
Hmm.
TV is stuck on Buzzer because it just repeats the last channel. Buzzer is these old game shows.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, if you go to YouTube and watch some old TV shows, we were a lot more tolerant back then than all the tolerance that we had
Hmm.
before, because we said things out loud that now, in order to be tolerant, you can't say. Well, that
Yeah,
doesn't, like, the world we live in is crazy
yeah.
because the paradigm has, I think it's a pendulum swing of what's happening in the paradigm, right? I don't give a crap what you do, how you dress, where you go. Like, I don't care who you love, how you love them, none of my business. But caring about people is at the heart of leadership,
Yeah,
because if you don't care, that's what you're going to get in return.
yeah.
What
That's
you care
exactly right.
about is going to show up in what this is every leader should know that you cannot expect what you do not inspect,
Hmm.
and you inspect what you care about. I almost got fired from a project another time because I was on this project. My boss asked me to do something that was completely stupid.
Hmm.
So I just ignored it, right? It's like a good contractor. I just said, all right, and then didn't do it. 3 weeks later, I'm having dinner with her, and she says, "Oh, by the way, you didn't ever do that thing I asked you to do." I'm like, "Yeah, I thought it was stupid, and you didn't check, so I didn't think you really cared." "Oh, because I didn't check, you thought I didn't care?" That's exactly why I didn't do it, because you didn't
Yeah,
check. Because if you don't care, you're not going to follow up.
yeah, yeah.
So what do you care about is what and if you think you're getting over on what you care about and your employees, grow up, because your employees, like your children, know exactly what you care about.
Hmm.
And there's
Yeah,
no pulling the wool over anybody's eyes.
yeah,
Now, I don't know what it's tough to articulate those things, but it's hard, and it's, um, but if you don't know what's most important and you don't care about it, and you don't demonstrate that care in your behavior, well, what do you expect is going to happen?
yeah. Yeah, you're not going to definitely get the results that you're looking for.
Well, you're going to get the results that you care about, and you're going to get the result. Actually, that's not accurate. You're going to get well, here's the equation, right? You're going to get the minimum performance for people so they don't lose their job. I mean, what else do people want to do at work? right? I mean,
That's so true.
they just do. And so you said I said that in speeches and training classes, 80% of people quit their manager, not their job, their boss, not their job. So there's always somebody in a dialogue that says, how do you know that's the number? I said, I don't know that's the number. Let's say I made it up. What did you do with your last boss? Let's go you then. Let's just use a survey of one. How did you perform when you had a great boss? How did you perform when you had a not great boss? How did you like it? How did you interact with it? How many pens, paper clips, or just productivity did you steal in retaliation for that thing they said? How many? And look, gossiping is theft. What? Yeah. Insubordination is theft. Not not doing what you're asked to do is theft. But you don't think of it as theft. You think it's justified because your boss pissed you off. Okay. Here's the other part of that statistic, Vicki. 80% of people quit their manager, not their job. But here's what's most true about it. Only your best people quit.
That
Bad
is so true.
managers.
That is
And
so
your
true.
worst people stay in defiance and work the least. And HR supports that BS. You know why HR is the worst part of your organization? Sorry, HR people, you're not held accountable to the results that those people you hired
That's so
produce.
true. That's right.
And I learned that because of an assessment tool that I started using back in 07 called the Harrison Assessment, which is one of only a small hand of the thousands of assessments out there that people use in companies. It's one of only a handful that measures behavioral preference, not personality traits. And behavioral preferences are what people are suited to do by what they like to do. And if you want the best performance, have people do what they like to do individually. And I only use the tool for coaching purposes. When I coach an executive, I get 6 months worth of coaching done in 30 minutes when they take that assessment. Because all the questions that we would talk about as a coach to get answers to get answered with the assessment. But it's used, but that tool is used, and a couple others, Wiley has one that does the same thing, that looks for, is this person going to like the job? Because they say, you know, I was telling you in 08, this company I worked for with this training, they hired 800 millennials. And then in 09, they hired 800 more, but half of those 800 were to replace the first 400 that left out of the first 800, right? Because that was part of my training. I had to add that in. Well, why was that? Well, if you throw crap against the wall, only some of it's going to stick. So and here's, again, I look at job descriptions all the time in my field for companies I'm in that world. And I'm like, this isn't a real job description. Who wrote it? Who's going to work this? Like, is this real? So the job description isn't real. The resumes aren't real. And we're asking people to do real work. I'm like, what kind of work are people doing to figure out what people should be doing and to cater it to individuals? And you brought it up really well. Like, you have to know your people. So this whole generational stuff is a smokescreen for getting to know the person. Most of what managers deal with are the stages of a person's life, not the generation they're in.
So true. So true.
I'm young and single. Of course, I'm going to come in hungover on a Wednesday. If the bar I like to go to has a special on Tuesday, to have the people that I like to hang out with. Like, what do you think is going to happen at 22? I'm going to do, what am I got a great job, but my friends don't. I'm going to hang with them because I like my friends better than I like my job, right? A small percentage don't fit that, but so, and I didn't write the book. You want to hear about the book I didn't write?
Yeah, go ahead, tell me.
I didn't write the book called The I Generation Coach back when I was doing those classes from 07 to 12. I was going to write the book, The I Generation Coach. I just never got around to it. And it was because I named it that because of the iPod, iPad, iTunes, all the I things that were popular. Everybody knows it now, but it was really to highlight the idea that you don't coach a generation, you don't coach a race, you don't coach a gender, you don't coach those things, you knuckleheads.
Coach a
So why
person.
are you coaching a generation? All these liars out there about managing a generation and coaching a generation. You manage an individual, you coach an individual. The I is in the individual coaching.
That's true.
I have a prediction as a futurist, by the way. You want to hear it?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
This newest generation, after Gen Z, the next ones, the kiddies that are being born right now to the millennials, they're the no generation. Here's why. My 7-year-old niece loves Foghat, ZZ Top, Led Zeppelin, and other bands that her dad listens to. And you ever watch AGT, America's Got Talent?
Of course I do.
Okay, well, I just watched it this year for the first time.
Oh, wow.
There were 7-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, masterful in their craft. Why? Here's why. Because they can get exposed to a decade's worth of images and sounds that would have taken you and I a decade to get exposed to. They can do in a year.
Yeah.
Because they have nothing else to do but right. So if they the echo chamber of the interwebs and the problems we have that the news makes a problem. Echo chambers are when you get fed, the algorithm feeds you what you like to eat. By the way, that's how they make pate. You goose. Right? They shove a tube down your throat and they just feed the goose until it's fat enough, and then they kill it, and then they eat the liver for pate, right? Well, that's what these kids get to do. If they're smart, if something catches their interest and they feed themselves that 8, 10, 12, 14 hours a day, of course they're going to get good at it. Repetition is the mother of skill.
Yeah.
So exposure and repetition creates skill. Same in the corporate workplace. If you want somebody to be good at something, expose them to it, repeat it, expose them to them, repeat it, keep practicing it till they get it, till they never get it wrong, and they're going to master it.
Absolutely.
So anyway, that's a lot of ranting about what, but a leader's job is to stay focused on who they are, who their people are, and how do they communicate and collaborate and coordinate so that the results get produced that the boss they report to, they're being held accountable for.
Absolutely.
Because that's all you're doing. You're satisfying somebody above you. Somewhere.
Always.
Who sang that song? It was either Dylan or Petty who sang the song "You Got to Serve Somebody." Do you remember who it was?
No.
It may be the devil or it may be the Lord, but you got to serve somebody. And if you're not in service, by the way, that's another problem as a leader.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Well, you and I could talk probably for days on this. I'll definitely have to have you back. But it is time now for me to share my contact information for Dominic. So if you are listening, you know the drill. You should have been having a paper and pencil the entire time to take notes of all this great stuff he shared with you. If not, you can go to my YouTube channel, Vicki Noethling. So please do subscribe, as well as my findyourleadershipconfidence.com. The website is the ADHD, all caps, leader.com, the ADHD leader.com, or salesandtechnology.com, initial cap, so salesandtechnology.com. On Facebook, you can go search his name, Dominic Carubba, that's Carubba. Instagram is his name again, Dominic Carubba, and LinkedIn is Dominic Carubba. And Twitter, you can just go to Dominic X. We'll turn it over now to Dominic to talk to you about what you'll find on that website and any social media he spends the most time in that you can DM him to get a more instant response. So, Dominic, it's all yours.
So I work with leaders, and I'm focusing on small business, but I do it for corporations as well, to really bridge the gap between people and technology. Because if a leader, in order to focus, you have to filter out all the distractions, right? And the challenge of an ADHD leader is that, and if a person has ADHD, let me tell you something, we share the symptoms of all human beings, right? So you think you have ADHD is one thing, but when you have it, you can't filter out the distractions. That's the problem. It's not a matter of attention. But as a leader, you have to filter out what's not important to focus on what is important. And I leverage technology to show you how to do those things, to get workflows working and people productive and communication and collaboration and coordination clearer, because clarity leads to action. And every marketer will tell you that a confused mind cannot choose. So why do you think it's different in work? And as a professional trainer, marketer, salesperson, coach, and technology expert, I mean, I'm probably a guru to some and a ding dong to others, but I've mastered the art of learning technology, and I teach people how to learn it and how to teach it, how to use that for their business. So you're going to see a variety of those things, but the real thing that you can get from me is, you can book a call and have a conversation and see where you are and where you want to be for your business, and we'll map a plan to get there.
Absolutely.
And so that's
awesome.
really what is available, and I'm open to have that conversation with anybody.
Fantastic. Dominic, it's just been so fun chatting with you. We had a great conversation. Again, you shared so many excellent points, and I see how much we are aligned. We'll definitely have to get together here in
Love
the
it.
Atlanta area to chat some more.
Sure.
Definitely have you back so we can talk about some virtual and hybrid teams and how to be a leader for those, because that creates some other distractions. But as always, thank you so much for being a great guest. So as always, I remind everyone that life is a journey, and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.